doing something that's aggravating them. Hold on, just one sec. Okay, we got a lady who we're going to just plug in. This is really interesting. Missy's been going out and actually exposing that people are locked down in one of the Westin Hotel in Calgary under a lockdown provision, quarantined, where this one lady's locked in her room. She's been there for a few days off the airport. She's afraid, she's not allowed. People there don't have their medicines, and they're locked in these rooms. It's called forced quarantine. Forced quarantine. When did you hear those names before? Back in Nazi Germany. Didn't they start quarantining the people? And again, I'm not promoting fear here. This is not a fear monger, oh yeah, look how bad it is. This is the initial stages to that kind of corruption where power takes over. And our rights as people is suppressed, and that's what City TV just did. They're trying to suppress our voice because they're part of the fraud. Okay? If they weren't, why would they not be out here interviewing us and giving our side of the story instead of trying to spin it like we're racists or we have racist tendencies or we're white supremacists, which is total garbage, right? It's total garbage.
I've got Rebecca on the phone.
She's got Rebecca on the phone. Here's Rebecca. We're just going to plug her. This is ad lib, so, but it's interesting. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so I'll just give a quick little explanation for those of you who aren't aware of the situation. Rebecca and her mom are up at the forced quarantine center here in Calgary, Alberta, against their will. And if any of you guys have been following me or my lives, you'll have seen me go up and report and talk to her on the phone as her and her mother were showing us by light which room that they were forced quarantine stuck in. So they're imprisoned, basically, and she's here to speak right now about a little bit of her situation, so you guys might be aware of what might happen to you if you're traveling and the confusion that you might be in, and then the duress that you might be under being forced to be in these situations. Okay, so thank you so much for calling in, Rebecca.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just still here with my mom. We're hopefully getting out this afternoon. We've been told that we're going to be released, but of course they don't give us a time. So,
okay, so you've been there for how long, Rebecca?
So we got to the airport, we flew in Wednesday night, and we were told we had to come to the facility, and we this Wednesday night.
Sorry, you're just going to have to speak a little bit slower and a little bit louder.
So we've been here since Wednesday night.
Okay.
Yeah, we landed from the U.S. Wednesday night, and we were told we had to come to this facility. We had no other choice.
So this was forced against your will?
Yes, we were not given the choice to do the testing right at the airport, which you can do.
Right, this phantom rapid PCR test that only the select few get to have, right?
So, yes, the Calgary airport is doing the pilot program, and once you land, you can opt to do the PCR test if you do not want to quarantine for 14 days. So any traveler that lands in Calgary can do this.
Okay, and so why were you not allowed to quarantine for 14 days at home? Do you know why?
We have no idea. We have, I have actually called the public health, and they just told me, well, because you did not have a PCR test, you had to come to this facility.
Okay, let's talk about your PCR test that you missed getting your boarding pass on the other side, because that's the responsibility of these airlines to inform you that you won't be going home to your own bed when you arrive at your home because they failed to tell you that this was mandatory and that you had to. Let's go into that a little bit.
So we left from a small town in, well, I guess it's actually a city in Illinois called Springfield. They only have a small airport. My mom, before she left, she looked on the website to see what the travel restrictions were, and she said it was very vague about who needed a COVID test upon return.
Confusing.
It seemed as though it was just foreign travelers, not Canadians, that needed the test upon return. So I had no idea that we needed a COVID test to return to Canada. And the airport, when my mom left Canada, they never told my mom that she would need a COVID test upon return either.
Right, so you guys were ill-informed that you were about to be into a forced lockup. Now tell me a little bit about, can you breathe fresh air there, and what is your food situation like in this forced quarantine you're in? We are not allowed to leave our room. There is a security guard. Do you have a key to your room?
No, we do not have a key to our room.
Wow. Okay, go on.
The windows don't open. We have not had any fresh air or sunlight.
Wow. Sunlight is required for human beings for vitamin D.
Yeah.
Are they administering vitamin D to you?
No.
Wow, inhumane. Did you know prisoners get vitamin D? They can go up and sign up and get vitamin D at the prison at the desk. So you guys don't have that option, and you need that to survive as a human being, especially to fight this virus, so-called virus.
And the food is awful, absolutely awful. And
do you have a little bit of explanation? How are you given food if this virus is if you guys are in forced quarantine and nobody should be coming near you? How are they even serving you food?
They drop it in bags, brown paper bags outside the door, and they just knock. And then
worse than trays for prisoners. You know, prisoners get trays, but those who are in holding cells, they get brown paper bags, and they're typically like, when you're in holding cells, it's not a good scene, right? So you guys are in almost worse conditions as holding cells.
It's called skip the dishes.
Yes, we tried to Uber Rebecca something the other day, but they refused. The doors are locked on this facility. They will not. This is a hotel that has a sign on the door that says we are closed, and that on their website they say that they are fully booked. So this is a public, it's a private company serving the public, closed down, bought out by the Canadian government. And now let me tell you something about prisons. If you are in a prison and the general public needs to speak to the people who are running the prison, as the general public, you always have to be able to have access to that prison. You have to be able to knock on the door 24/7. You can go to any police precinct, and even if it's a small precinct, they'll have an emergency phone that you can pick up and speak to somebody in the police force. And the same goes for any prison. They're open 24/7 for you to knock on the door and ask them questions. This facility, you can't even knock on the door and ask them questions because I did that. You know what they did to me? They smiled and waved. They were happy, unlawfully confining innocent human beings. They were making fun of it. This is communist Canada right here. We live in communist Canada. Okay, all right, so Rebecca, so you've got your mom in there and you guys got your test finally.
Yes, finally. We got swabbed yesterday morning and we got results. But of course, when we call to ask how to get out of here, I mean, the Red Cross don't give us any answers. The only reason why we're getting out of here is because luckily I could hear a nurse outside talking to another person across the hall about how he didn't have his heart medication, of all things. And I was able to catch her outside and tell her that I had negative test results, which all I had to do was show her the text. Because the results get texted to us.
Wow, they're so organized there.
very unprofessional. You should never text medical or results via text. Should never do that.
Section 45-1 of the Alberta Health Information Act dictates that. 100%, you're right.
Exactly. So I just had to show her the text, and she said, "Oh, I will pass on the information that you have negative results and get you out of here."
Oh, great.
And
We're going to spend 5 or 10 hours now processing your information before releasing you from unlawful custody. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Just tell them to come to the Walk for Freedom Village.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty bad.
Well, yes, we want to thank you guys so much. Everybody who's here is in support of Rebecca here today.
But there's lots of other people here that need help.
There is, absolutely. Who is interested in possibly rallying up at this forced quarantine center? All right, that's action. Okay, I just want to speak on one quick other little thing before we move on here. And it was that I went and I spoke to the police because the front door people called the police on me for coming on public government property that is a quarantine facility that I had the right as freedom for the press to ask questions about. And they called the police on me. Now, when they called the police on me, I told them that I was concerned for your welfare for being unlawfully confined in that place. And what did they do when they came up and seen you when I complained about that?
They knocked on the door, and my mom answered, and they said they wanted to talk to me, and they actually ended up issuing me a $1,200 Public Health Act ticket because they had evidence that I was not wearing my mask outside the room, and I was outside my room, which I should not have been.
Unbelievable. This is our police department supposed to be protecting and serving people, and you are the people that they're supposed to be protecting and serving. So I really, really appreciate you sharing your story, Rebecca. Thank you so much for calling in. We hope that you have minutes and seconds before you're released out of there, because
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
And we should be fighting for the rest of those who are held captive. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Rebecca and Jerome.
Big hand for Missy, all the work she's doing. Come on. Wasn't that fun? Now, the PCR test, the one that they're holding her for. Guess what? There's no science behind that test that says it even works. But they're holding people in quarantine because of that. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Now they're throwing people into these, and this is the beginning, because they're going to unroll more and more of this nonsense, where they're going to start isolating people using this fraud of an excuse to make us subservient to a system that's very corrupted. And that's what really is going on right now. So the PCR test, like everybody should know by now, is a phony test that does not test for virus. They have not tested the virus in a isolated setting, so there is no virus that they're protecting us from, that they can prove is killing anyone. There's no virus that they've proven. And show me a doctor or a scientist that will stand up and make the argument that what they're doing makes sense. Because they can't. It's a joke. So this is the problem. Then the Health Canada officials start promoting this lie to everybody. The doctors make money from the vaccines or from the various testing. So it becomes a corporate agenda. And we have to realize that's the problem in Canada. That's the problem here, because we allow the corruption in every aspect of our lives. And in medical, there should be no corruption. In government, there should be no corruption. But we're fixated in this system that is corrupted. And now we're facing the consequences of that. Now they're able to come and give us a vaccine that has not been tested. It does not give any protection. It can't. How can it? Because if they haven't taken some of the virus and put it into a immunization setting, we're not being immunized. We're just giving a third-party vaccine that, like we spoke about last week, that is all about this RNA vaccine that is creating a genetic modification of our cells and our DNA. This is very scary stuff, transhumanism. And we should look into it. Like, don't take my word for anything, right? Please don't. Just do your research, and most of you are well researched, I'm sure.